Welcome to the first week. This is week one of the 4 go-to sessions, lectures we're going to have all month. So welcome aboard. You're in the right place. These will be held every Tuesday night at 7 p.m. So if you registered for the link, it signed you up for all 4. For people who are watching this after the fact, or for those of you who are with us now, if you're not able to attend live, that's okay. These sessions are always recorded, and then afterward, I send it out as an announcement. This way, everybody gets to watch the lecture. Let me just make a few quick comments. I posted it in, I forget which board, probably the welcome board where people were chatting. I did say that there's a real easy way to do well in this class, and that is to make sure that you attend or watch all lectures. Also, keep up with the textbook readings. Real quickly, let me show you one of the books called Resonate. Here it is. We'll talk a bit more about the author in just a second, but if we go into the textbook, you'll see these aren't terribly long readings. Like, I think you had 5 chapters to read this week. Let's see if I can get to chapter 1. So you can see there's a lot of images, right? Some multimedia stuff. And the actual text you have to read isn't terribly long. So please keep up with the readings, because although I will highlight important concepts from the reading every week, yeah, it also gets reinforced if you keep up with the textbook readings, which are not terribly long. So anyways, I was saying that in the welcome message that I put on the board, I pretty much said people who attend all lectures, keep up with the readings, and pretty much follow the concepts we're going to learn this month, do well. Like, it's impossible not to pass in a lot of ways. So yeah, keep that in mind, okay? Just stay up. Yeah, half the secret is staying up on top of everything. As Tiernan says, short chapters, big letters. Yeah, it's not terribly difficult reading, but it's important reading, because what this course is about in a lot of ways is completely relearning what we think of when we hear the word presentation. We're going to break a lot of bad habits. Bad habits include, like, just opening up PowerPoint, choosing a template, and then typing away. Okay, you have your bullet points and you put all your facts on the slides. That's not terribly interesting or engaging, so we're going to flip things on its head and bring you into the 21st century in terms of what actual presenters do today in 2016. And it's deceptively simple. I keep saying that every month. It really is. It's deceptively simple what we're going to be teaching. But yeah, you do have to kind of keep up with things so you soak up these concepts. Okay, let me get back to my keynote presentation and blow it up big, even though I'll have to get away from it probably in about 2 seconds. Welcome to Creative Presentation. This is your first course, probably all of your brand spanking new, right? This is your first month. There's a little bit of information about me. I've over 15 years teaching experience. I've taught at other universities. I've taught at a community college. My interests, my real background is in English and literature and creative writing, specifically fiction writing. I do teach English here at Full Sail, along with creative presentation. So for campus students, English is a month 2 course typically. For online students, it's a month 4 course. So I'll probably be seeing some of you again. But yeah, I have other interests too. I've taught film at other places, introduction to film. I've never taught music, but I do play piano. So my point here is that Full Sail is a different type of school. Probably you realize that when you applied. It's a different kind of place, and that includes what we faculty members do. So a lot of us have the same interests that all of you do. And actually, for fun, why don't people go ahead and type in the chat what you're here to study, what your field is, your industry, so we can get to know each other a little bit. I know we've been doing that on the welcome board, but it doesn't hurt to do so here as well. But yeah, it's not odd at all to find out that your English teacher has a background in music or comics or television or film. That's not by accident. Full Sail likes to hire people who have kind of different backgrounds, not the typical just strictly academic background. And you'll find that's the case pretty much with all of your instructors here. So you're in the right place. Let's see, we got a couple computer animation people. William and Deanna, welcome aboard. Helen's here for graphic design. Okay, great. We have a great graphic design program. I forget which place, Princeton Review, I think, listed it as a top 20 program. So that's good. We have creative writing. Okay, lots of computer animation people. But yeah, Tiernan, I hope I'm saying that right, your name. He also has a music production degree. Yeah, we have a music production degree as well as a recording arts degree for people who prefer to be whether you're in front of the mic or behind the mic, I guess you could put it. That's the difference between music production and recording arts. William is correcting me and saying it's in the top 10 last time we checked. Okay, good. Yeah, our graphic design program is pretty awesome. So are the other areas too. So, and that leads me to my next slide, which is, oh, okay, maybe it's a different slide. My number one piece of advice here is to channel that energy, channel that excitement, and keep it, because classes move fast here. Okay, they're 4 weeks long, and the good news is they're over before you know it. The bad news is yeah, it can feel intense at times. There's a lot to keep up on. But again, my promise is that people who do keep up with activities and keep up with lectures and readings tend to do well. Then I think the courses become pretty easy. They become difficult, though, if you fall behind, because think of it, classes move so fast that if you start falling behind, then it gets problematic. So what we expect from you guys on your end is to always ask questions. I've already heard from some of you. Okay, I know Tiernan I've already spoken with. I'm here. Okay, I have no life. I'm pretty much always online. So if you ever get a response to me at like 3 a.m., that just means that I'm still awake, right? And I have nothing else better to do. Um, Online classes can seem distant, but I don't know why. I would argue you have more access to the instructor in an online class in lots of ways, because you do have that ability to reach out to him or her almost whenever you feel like it. I mean, listen, be realistic. I'm pretty fast at responses. We try to promise a 24-hour turnaround time. Normally, I'll be much faster than that, but yeah, don't expect an instant response. You might have to wait a little bit. Okay, but that's what we shoot for. So yeah, what we expect from you is to keep up with all activities, to ask questions whenever you're confused, and we'll be there to help out. I kind of got into what you can expect from us. You can expect an instructor who's just as available as a instructor who would be teaching in the physical classroom, which is really my background. But the funny thing about that is, you have class, students, if they have questions, would ask after class is over. Then you don't see them again. If you meet Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, you don't see them again until 2 days have passed. Here you have, I think, much more access. So yeah, you can expect fast communication. We aim for a 72-hour turnaround time on assignments, so that's 3 days. That's not counting weekends or holidays, so that's kind of like business days. Typically, things are always going to be due on a Sunday night, so we'll aim for getting things back by Wednesday at midnight. Okay? But yeah, please take advantage. Ask questions whenever you have them, especially since most of you are so new. You probably have lots of questions about lots of different things, so go ahead and ask them. If I can't answer them, I can at least point you in the right direction, okay? A quick note, Full Sail takes copyright issues very, very seriously. All of you work in industries where this is super important. You probably already know that copyright is important, but think about it. We have computer animation people here, graphic design. Someone said he already has a degree in music production. All three of those fields, copyright is crucial. So we are creating presentations for this class, which means you can use images, you can use music, but it should be images or music that either you've created or, and I'll show you a little bit at the end of the session, safe places you can go to use images that are allowable. What we're trying not to do is just Googling an image and just grabbing whatever you want, because unless you have express permission to do so, you shouldn't be touching it. Same thing with music. Some people like to spruce up their presentations with music, but as much as I love Taylor Swift, and I do, I don't want to hear her music in your presentation, or Rihanna, or any copyrighted music. We can talk about later on in the month places to go where you can get free music files as well. Let's see, James asks, would all assignments be due for the week on a Sunday? Typically, yes. I'm trying to think through my mind. I mean, certain things like discussions open up earlier in the week, so you can jump right in. Like several people have already started participating in the main discussion for this week, which is a graded assignment worth 5% of your grade. Yeah, but typically the deadline, like discussions, end on a Sunday. Major projects or assignments for each week end on a Sunday. So that's a pretty good thing to keep in mind. Sunday at midnight is kind of the deadline for things. James says, can I make my own music for a presentation? Sure, absolutely. Anything that's yours, you can include. By the way, actually, maybe let me talk about the presentation, because I think it's good to know what we're working toward so we don't lose sight of that. What we're building toward is a 3 to 4 minute presentation. Okay, 3 to 4 minutes. And it has very specific guidelines. I'm not going to get into too many of them tonight, except the biggest one, which is what it's about. It's a 3 to 4 minute presentation aimed at prospective employers, okay, potential employers. All of you are going to imagine yourselves 2 years in the future. You're recent Full Sail graduates. So this means you'll get to list things that you maybe haven't accomplished yet, but put them in your presentation and mention them as if you have. Yeah, so you'll do a little bit of future forward thinking. And you're really going to be presenting yourself. Excuse me. Uh, I sort of like to describe it as imagine a world in which instead of someone looking through resumes and cover letters, they're looking through a bunch of 3 to 4 minute presentations. And we'll talk about design issues. Um, we'll talk about how to spruce up the presentation so it's not the presentation shouldn't sound literally like you reading a resume or your cover letter. So yeah, but basically that's it. 3 to 4 minute presentation about you aimed at a potential employer. So you'll talk about your qualifications, what you've done, where you see yourself, etc. And there are lots of ways to do it, and we'll get into more details as we get closer to the rough draft for that assignment, which isn't due until the end of week 3. So we'll learn more about it as we go on. Okay. But that's what we're aiming for. So keep that in mind. And I'm going to be like a broken record. Every week I'll repeat what we're working on so we keep it in mind. Let's see what people are saying in the chat. Kylie says, can we use our own pictures? Yeah, absolutely. Anything you take. For instance, if there's a picture you like that you want to include in your presentation about yourself, sure. Anything you own or you took can be used. And you can take stuff that you haven't created, but I'm going to show you where you should go to find that stuff. Stock images, as Tiernan says. Okay? But yeah, copyright's super serious. And Full Sail takes it. Yeah, even we instructors can't have like Disney images or anything we think is cute to spruce up our presentations. No, it has to come from allowable sources ourselves. So same thing for students. Real quick note about writing standards. For this class, really we expect the basics, that you can write in complete sentences, that you use punctuation, that you're not writing in text speak. Text speak for me means things like not capitalizing the first letter in a word that begins a sentence, not using end punctuation, not capitalizing the personal pronoun I. These little shortcuts that we all do when we're typing online. Here we have to aim for professionalism. But in this first class, I'm not grading so much on how awesome the writing is. I just expect basic standards to be met for this first class, if that makes sense. Yeah, as Latasha says, yeah, no LOLs. I don't see that so much. What I see is, I'm going to go ahead and type it in the chat, is things like, I need help, someone writes me, right? But they don't capitalize or they don't use punctuation. And by the way, that includes anything you write. So a discussion board post doesn't mean we relax the standards. Or a message to me. Again, we don't relax those standards. When I write back to you, I'm pretty serious and straightforward, right? For the people I've already spoken with. Like I use your name. I close with my name. So yeah, professionalism is important. Okay, we have 2 textbooks. One is called Resonate. The other is called Slideology. They're both written by the same woman, Nancy Duarte. There she is. She's a CEO. She's a communication expert. We've already taken a quick look at her textbook. Like I showed you, the chapters are not long, so please make your way through it. I'll always try to highlight key concepts every week, but it's helpful if you read it also, okay? Resonate is more, readings. Slideology is more the nuts and bolts about actual slide design and presentation design. Because again, we're going to be reversing a lot of the bad habits that people do. I think I wrote to someone on the first discussion board that I think Nancy Duarte says something like 90%, or if it wasn't that high, it was a huge percentage. Yeah, people make bad presentations. Actually, I think, hold on. Wait, I got ahead of myself. Let me go back. We'll hold off. In a second, I'm going to ask people if they can remember bad presentations that they've seen. So keep that in your mind. Okay, so we're talking about the textbook. Yeah, do the readings. They're short. At the very least, at least read for gist. Do you know what that means, gist? Right? You're reading it so you get the key ideas from the reading. That's what's most important, I think. But yeah, they're so short you should be able to make it through anyway. Um, because Nancy Duarte uses this cool metaphor. If you've read chapter one already, she chooses the word resonate because it's a term from science, right? It's about finding the right frequency at which something operates to make it move. She uses the example of her son who was doing an experiment using table salt, in which he found the correct frequency to make the salt vibrate and jump around and form patterns. And if you think about it, that's what we're trying to do with communication. Anytime we write something, anytime we speak, and in this case, a presentation is really a combined act because there will be text to a certain degree, there will be visuals, and of course, there will be your spoken voice. Now, I've already heard people freaking out on the first discussion board where we're sharing our past experiences with presentations. You all can take a big sigh because this isn't, yeah, you won't be delivering these presentations live. You won't have to like step out on stage and actually give it a go. You get to do everything in the comfort of your own home, your own bedroom, wherever you decide to create this from. Okay, this means that you'll get to, yes, there will be a voiceover. So you'll create your visuals, and they'll match, hopefully, what you're saying out loud, but you'll get to script what you're going to say. Actually, you should script. Okay, so you're going to sit down, prepare a script, make sure that it's just perfect, edit it if you need to, and then you can record things so that they're just perfect. That should take away a lot of the anxiety people are feeling because it's much easier, I think, to kind of work in the privacy of your own setting to make sure that everything is absolutely perfect before you hand it in. That's quite a bit different than just walking out and speaking. Kind of like I'm doing now. I've given this presentation so many times that I don't operate from a script, but that means I pause, I sometimes stumble, I sometimes say, right? But if I were delivering this in a, let's say, a format where it was there for viewing before class even started, yeah, I would make sure that it's absolutely perfect. I would script what I'm going to say. I would have it match the images you're seeing on the screen, and so on. Okay, so that should make people feel a little bit better. The class is much more about presentations and your ability to do so professionally. So, in that sense, it's not really a public speaking class so much. It really is about presentation making. So, back to my thought question. Have you ever sat through a bad presentation or a boring presentation? And specifically, what made it ineffective? Any ideas? You can use the chat to answer. Like, what are some of the key things that people do that make you tune out completely? And I'll wait to hear some responses. If some of you have already written on the discussion board, maybe you can draw from that. Someone's hand went up. Let's see. Tiernan, did you want me to unmute you so you can speak out loud, or did you click the hand by mistake? There is a little hand function on your control panel. While I wait to hear back from Tiernan, other people, feel free to jump in. Kylie says unprofessionalism. Okay, but what does that mean, for instance? Damon says has too many facts. Okay, that's interesting. The too many facts things, because Nancy Duarte does mention that in one of her chapters as well. That we want to avoid presentations seeming like a data dump, where you're just dumping the audience with fact after fact after fact. That's why we're going to learn techniques to make your presentations more engaging. Because when you create your own presentation aimed at potential employers, it should not be the equivalent of you just reading your resume out loud. Okay. Let's see, other good stuff here. Kylie says they laugh in the presentation. Oh, I haven't seen that. Or can't keep focused. Too off topic. Tiernan says, oh, you could talk by raising your hand. Yeah, you could. I just want to make sure. Because lots of people click the little hand by accident. So if you want me to unmute you, sir, I can. Maybe that will loosen everybody up. Because it's not frightening to speak out loud. Okay, I'm trying to keep up with all the chat comments. Someone said a monotone voice. Okay, so there's the important thing too, right? Because there's a voiceover portion here. Yeah, sometimes I have to say to students, "Can I see a bit more energy? You have to try to be a bit more engaged." I know that's not super comfortable for people to do that, uh, but you have to try. Okay, Sharon, I'm gonna try to unmute you. So if you want to go ahead and speak away, you can. You're unmuted now.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Okay, so what I was going to say is oftentimes there's a like cliche way that presentations are often set up, and the information just they're just trying to pump information into people, and to really you have to engage people in order to get them to retain the information.
Okay, lots of good points here. Needing to engage people. So, what's the problem with the presentations you've seen? They're not engaging because of what?
They're the presentations are made to get information across,
Okay,
and so sometimes, especially when they're repetitive presentations, um, they forget to, and when they're trying to get so much information across, people forget to include in the presentation that they have to engage the people they're presenting to in order to enthrall them. You know, it's a presentation is more about isn't just about presenting. It's about uh, uh, being able to make that presentation stick with your audience.
right. Okay, very good. Thank you, sir. I'm going to go ahead and mute you again. Yeah, good points here because I think what Tiernan is describing is that before I came to Full Sail, I was a terrible presenter. I did all the things you're not supposed to do, and the things that oddly we probably think is the cornerstone of presentation making. You open up PowerPoint, you choose a template, and then what happens is one of two things happens. Either you start putting all your information on slides, which isn't terribly interesting because who wants to read the presentation? And if you're a fast reader, you might get through the information yourself and then have to sit there while the presenter's still talking about it. Or you use these bullet points and they're kind of more in note form, but they're really sort of cue cards for the presenter. They don't really do anything for the audience. And yet, yeah, the majority of presentations kind of work that way. I mean, how many people have seen like a bad PowerPoint presentation that more or less works like that? The person is, they've put bullet points, they've put a bunch of words on every slide, and it really isn't doing much except it's sort of either highlighting or literally saying what the presenter is going to go over. Okay, lots of people are saying they've seen that. James says he's made one like that. Yeah, so have I. That's what I used to do. And when I came here, I saw my colleagues doing things much differently. And that's why I say that this class is deceptively simple, because when you realize how simple it is to make an effective presentation, you'll leave this class thinking, really? It's that easy? And yet it's not as easy as it sounds. It does take some effort. For example, finding the right visuals, writing out that script. But yeah, we're going to reverse all those bad trends. By the way, the software sort of invites you to do that. Because what happens when you choose a template through PowerPoint? It automatically chooses a slide. It encourages you to put a title. It encourages you to click on the slide and start entering text. And that's what everybody does. So we sort of have to stop doing all that and do something else instead. I'm going to give an example of what we're trying to aim for in just a second. But yeah, I think these things make presentations boring, right? Because you just tune out if there's just endless information on slide after slide after slide. And I think that's what Tiernan was kind of talking about a bit there. Um, yeah, we have to work on engaging people. And you're going to have an assignment this week where you'll examine the work of professional presenters to see what they do. Okay, so let's look at an example of what we're going for instead. Basically, I try to use these presentations to mirror what I expect, or I use these presentations to echo the concepts that we teach. So let's take a look at this next slide because I want to make a couple points. Okay, here's a quote. Education is the kindling of a flame, not the filling of a vessel. Okay, so it's a nice quote, right? By the way, quotes are one way to engage. I know they're not the most exciting thing, but usually that's the case because someone's just picking some quotation from a quotation website. But truly, if you can think of the right quote because you know of one, or maybe we have a lot of computer animation people. So let's say you remember that John Lasseter, the guy who works for Pixar and makes all those awesome movies, you remember him saying something incredible. Yeah, that could be a powerful quote. And if your audience is made up of people who are interested in computer animation, then the quote no longer feels generic. But yeah, quotations can be a way to sort of spruce things up. So here's one. I like this one too, right? Because it says something, it gets at the heart of what learning is all about. It's about sparking that flame. It's not just filling one's head with facts that you may not remember once the class is over. But look what happens when we pair it with the right visual, right? It takes on a different kind of shade. Um, And this, what you're seeing on screen now, is really what we're going to encourage you to do. Limited text. Okay, it's not that text is terrible, but we're not going to overwhelm slides with basically your entire script put in slide form. That's not what we're aiming for. So minimal text combined with the right powerful visual. Here the quotation takes on a completely different meaning in some ways, right? Because here we see that education is occurring no matter where. We can make some guesses based on this image. This is probably a poor community. Could be in another country. It could be in this very country. And a classroom can occur anywhere underneath an overhead pass, right? So here education is taking place. Or we can combine it with a different image. I don't know if this image is dated. I'm getting older, so maybe I have to come up with better examples. But does anybody know this movie? Pop culture reference. Um, Here, obviously, the thing that we're going for is kind of humor. You have to be careful with humor. You don't want to go overboard with it. Depending on your audience, humor might be inappropriate, but humor is one way to engage. People tend to remember better when they laugh. People tend to remember better if there's something interesting happening on the screen, like here. Kylie says she knows the name but can't think of it. It's Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, a movie from the late 80s. Two slackers who travel in time. So, yeah, but the thing is, if you can get people to smile, they'll usually stick with you a little bit longer because suddenly it's like they've woken up and they start paying attention. And you have them for probably about another 5 minutes. So if in that 5 minutes you can engage them again somehow, it doesn't have to be through humor, but through some other technique, and we'll learn a bunch this month. But again, look what we're doing here. Simple, effective visual combined with minimal text, right? And this way I can speak. As a presenter, this is all you need. Image, some text, and then you deliver what you have to say instead of taking what I'm saying out loud to you right now and cramming it onto a slide. That's not terribly interesting. And here's more of a classical image because this quote, I believe, comes from Socrates, or as Bill and Ted call it in the movie, Socrates. But here's, yeah, an image of the philosopher. Okay, so keep this in mind because this is really what this course is about. Okay, finding the right visuals, pairing it with limited text so it acts as a visual anchor for what you have to say. Okay, you are sort of the star. What you have to say is what's important. Instead of cramming information on slides. Does this make sense, by the way? Because this is something I'm also going to repeat all month. Kylie's saying yes. Okay, good, because it really is that simple. As you'll see, it will become less simple when you have to find the right image or when you have to decide, because sometimes people can choose the wrong image or the image just isn't doing much of anything. It's not that it's a screensaver. It's not that it's just decoration. No, it has to have some sort of purpose. It has to communicate with what you're saying. But yeah, what you're saying is what's important. And people forget about that in presentations all the time. Okay. If you think of stories, stories have beginnings, middles, and ends. Essays have introductions, bodies, and conclusions. Your presentations will also have a sense of a start, an in between, and a finish. Okay, a lot of this is common sense, but for some of you, I'll repeat it when I look at your presentation drafts in the second half of the month. But yeah, you'll have to have that same sort of shape, some sort of start, middle, and finish. And we'll talk about the different ways you can start a presentation, end it, etc. Okay, we've already had this discussion, effective versus ineffective. Okay, I've already talked about that. I try to keep these sessions under an hour because I've learned from presentation giving that I lose people at about the hour mark. At about an hour mark is when people start wandering away to other, because I have a little caution thing that lights up when I see people go to another website. So when people wander to Facebook, I know it. I don't know that you're going to Facebook. I just know that you're wandering away. Um, okay, 4 types of audiences. This is, by the way, this is all recaps of stuff you'll read in the textbook chapters. So real quickly, what kind of audience do you think you've encountered before when you've given presentations? Happy, friendly, they're there for you. Apathetic, which is just a fancy way of saying bored, right? They could not care less. They're just sitting there. Uninformed, or the last one. I lost my cursor. You can see it probably moving all around, but I can't, so I have to minimize this for a second. And the last group is hostile. Helen says apathetic. Right. Omari also says apathetic. Were these in school type settings? Because yeah. I feel so bad for speech classes because what happens in speech class? You have to be sent up there almost like a sacrificial lamb to give your speech that nobody wants to listen to. You look out into that crowd of your classmates, some of whom might even be your friends, and they're not helping you at all. They're looking at their phones, they're closing their eyes, going to sleep, they're doing just about anything except looking at you. And that can throw you, that can make you lose your place, that can make you stumble. And since we were talking about some of these things on the discussion board, I talked a little bit about it, that you just have to. I have no great secret about how to overcome those things, except that it comes with time. And there comes that moment where you just find your self confidence. You feel comfortable in your own skin. Um, it's not that you don't care, it's that you don't panic if things don't go perfectly. If I lose my place, I just smile. Or I might even turn to my audience and say, wait, where was I? And then someone will laugh and tell me where I was. And I say thank you. And then we move on. On the discussion board, I compared it to a figure skater who falls, right? Just get up, start skating again. But yeah, you need to find that self-confidence. And I can't tell you where exactly you find it, but it does come when you're able to throw caution to the wind. When you just, for me, I think for me, I learned how to find that point when I realized that, like teaching, for example, is sort of similar because it does involve public speaking and giving information. Um, and once I started to view it as performance, like walking out on stage and embrace that aspect of it, things got easier for me. Stage fright, which I used to suffer from, just completely disappeared. I don't know why it stopped, but I think it came when I just started feeling comfortable in who I was and just walked out there and let it all fly. Now that doesn't mean that I don't care. Obviously, I do care. Plenty of times I walk out and say, "Wow, I could have done that better. I could have explained that section better." And that's not to say that because I kind of view it as performance that I'm acting. No, I don't become a different person. I'd say I become a more enhanced version of who I truly am because in real life I'm very quiet, I'm private, I'm not the kind of person who seeks attention. But when I walk out on stage, yeah, I embrace it. Um, I don't know how helpful that is to tell you that you'll just have to wait for that realization to come to you, but it will come, I think, in time. Let's see. William says he's presented to an uninformed audience once. They didn't understand what I was describing, and I had to find a way to explain on the spot. Did not go well. Yeah, that's tough. I don't think I've faced that too much because um, usually the type of speeches we give are so general. Even if we're trying to introduce our audience to something very specific, usually they're informed enough to be able to follow along. Okay. Let's see. Anything else I missed in the chat? I don't think so. But yeah, apathetic is typical. But the good news is you're going to have a friendly audience in this class. There will be a peer review activity late in the month where we'll put our presentations up for everybody to look at. And people are pretty honest and friendly about that. You obviously have a friendly audience in me. I actually love looking at presentations. It's a lot of fun this class to see what everybody can do. So that won't be an issue. Okay, let me rip through these final slides. Let's see. How are we doing on time? Oh, we're doing great on time, actually. Okay, good. Some some concepts from the textbook. Nancy Duarte likes to compare the audience, not the presenter, the audience as the hero. Yes, you're the one who's doing the presenting. Yes, you're kind of the focus, but everything you do is for your audience. Um, when it comes to writing, when it comes to speaking, when it comes to presenting, which is an act that combines both, um, if you're unsuccessful in getting your audience to understand what you're saying or to be willing to listen to what you're saying, you failed. So the audience is most important, which is why our textbook author calls the audience the hero, not you, the presenter. And we'll talk more about the importance of audience in these coming weeks. So when you create your presentation aimed at potential employers, yeah, you have to put yourself in their shoes. And you can spot so many things when you do that. You can spot everything from unclear sentences to ideas that aren't coming across well. if you put yourself in someone else's position. Because when you look from that position, then when you're seeing things, because here's the thing, everything makes sense to us, of course, because our ideas, they seem logical, they seem perfectly clear. But if we can look at something through this someone else's eyes, we can sometimes catch those moments where it isn't so clear. But we can only do that if we really make that attempt to see things from the audience's point of view. Omari says, what would you consider an audience that knows more about the subject like you and they ask a lot of questions to test you? Is that hostile? I don't know if it's hostile. It's pretty. Luckily, I haven't faced that. I'd say that's. Yeah, actually, I take it back. That probably is hostile. I wouldn't like that. Like if I'm coming up to discuss, I don't know, something education related, and I have someone in the audience who feels that they know more than I do, that's fine. Contribute in some way, contribute in some friendly way. But yeah, asking questions to test me, that would seem like a pretty bad move. I have a name to call that person, but I won't use it in this presentation. Okay, so how do we learn more about our audience? Yeah, we can do so by just thinking more about them, think about what they expect to see, what they expect to hear. So in this case, we're talking about eventually potential employers. So I always tell people, really, imagine yourself as a hiring person. You have all these presentations to go through, 3 to 4 minutes. What would you want to hear? What would impress you? Okay, so that's a good way to imagine and anticipate your audience's needs. Okay, and there's a little quote here. Designing a presentation without an audience in mind is like writing a love letter and addressing it to whom it may concern. And by the way, I used to teach business writing. So I used to teach students how to write resumes and cover letters. And yeah, one thing I would teach them is not just to write form letters. Yes, a good portion of their cover letter would remain the same, but I would encourage them, hey, do some research on the person, or excuse me, the organization you're applying to. Maybe they have some sort of model system or some unique program or some awesome benefit, or maybe they donate to charity. How cool would it be to be able to mention that in your letter? It lets the person know that they're just not one of 100 resumes you're sending out. Tailor it in some way to them. So yeah, you won't have to do that as much for this assignment, but the importance of thinking about your audience and not just creating something generic still holds true. Okay, here's another slide reminding us the audience is the hero. I'm going to breeze through this stuff because you're going to get it again in the textbook. Is that okay? I want to get into this week's assignments and making sure that we explain them so that we're all on the same page. Your role as presenter is more like a mentor, okay? So the audience is the hero, not you. You're sort of the guide. It's your job to guide the audience to where you need them to go. Okay, and there's another. By the way, these are all examples of what I'd like to see you do. Again, here's a really powerful visual along with minimal text. It's not that text is terrible. It's not that bullet points are terrible. But when slides are nothing more than crammed text and bullet points that are really functioning as nothing more than cue cards for the speaker, yeah, that's not terribly interesting. And if you can leave this class, actually, we're not at question time yet, but if you can leave this class with that skill, yeah, that's terrific. That's why I love teaching this class. People leave the class with a completely different concept of how to put together presentations, and you will have to do so again in your future Full Sail classes and outside of Full Sail as well. So why not get that down now? It's a valuable skill, and because, like I said, because it's so deceptively simple, and yet it's crucial. It's important. It's almost like you have to experience this paradigm shift, which means you have to stop doing things the way you thought they were done and instead embrace this new way that I think is much simpler. It's a lot more fun. I like putting together presentations because it's fun to go through looking for images, pairing it with the right text that I want to speak out loud. Yeah, it's a lot of fun. A lot more fun than just opening up PowerPoint and putting bullet lists together. Yes, as Kylie says, bullet points equals bad. Pretty much. Although I do have one, right? Earlier. Right? So there's some bullet points. Okay. So it's not that you can never use them. It's just don't rely on them so much. Okay, let's talk about this week's activities. There are two graded activities. One you've already jumped in on. The only thing I want to mention is, let me open up the assignment sheet. Now, a lot of you are doing fine, so you probably are going to be bored during this part of my presentation, but I'll be fast. Okay, so we look at the instructions. Some people are jumping in, and that's awesome, but they're doing so without reading the instructions, and that's not so awesome. If we go to page 2, we have like 5 bullet points here, and you should be answering these as fully as possible, okay? So when it says discuss a public speaking experience, remember that's what you should be doing. Or just discuss the time you created a visual presentation, such as PowerPoint. What was your biggest challenge, etc. Okay. And now, if you truly didn't do one of these things, which I find kind of difficult to believe, you've almost everybody probably should have done one or the other, and more likely both. Okay, that's fine. But yeah, you should be going through these bullet points and answering them pretty thoroughly. Because I've already seen some people jumping in, and yeah, it's awesome. I like that excitement, but if we're not following the instructions, that's not a good thing. It is a great assignment. It's only worth 5%. So let's talk about the one that's worth 15% that's due on Sunday. Oh, and as part of the discussion, you have to write at least 2 thoughtful responses to 2 of your classmates. Okay? That means writing more than just a sentence or 2 or saying great job and calling it a day. It means engaging with what they've written somehow. Right? Tiernan says something. Oh, I haven't read your post yet. Yeah, don't worry. If you have the ability to go back and edit too, just go back to the board and there's a little edit button. You can either edit or repost material. So yeah, don't worry. This is I'm pretty light going the first week or so, but I do want to get people on track, and that means always reading the assignment sheets. So here's the big guide for this week, right? We're 15%. You're going to analyze the presentation, so let's take a look at that one. And this is one I want to spend a little bit more time with and close out the session. Okay, so let me open up the instructions for this one. Because there are parts here that are a little bit confusing. I mean, the assignment basics are pretty easy. First, you're going to choose a TED Talk. So you're going to go to tedtalk.com and choose a presentation. Ideally, I think it's probably most useful if you choose one that's close to your industry. But you can search talks. You can search by topics. So you can people technology, people in entertainment, etc. Design. We have a graphic design person. Let's see what happens when I click on that. Okay. So yeah, choose one that's interesting. When we design for a disability, we all benefit. Some of these don't look. Oh, the magic ingredient that brings Pixar movies to life. Danielle Feinberg. I just had a student in my English class write a paper about her, so that would be pretty interesting. Okay, so you have lots of interesting stuff. So you're going to choose 3 TED Talks, okay? You're going to watch 3 of them. So find 3 that you like, and then you're going to analyze them. And how are you going to do that? You're going to go back to the instruction sheet, and you have these, 6 prompts? And you're going to answer them or take notes and use them to create your analysis. Okay, why was the presentation powerful? Why did you like it, etc. Okay, and you're going to take your answers to these prompts and create a document. That's what step 2 says. Create a document for this assignment with visual elements. Now, this is the part that sometimes confuses students, and it's going to be the thing that might frustrate you all month, although I think it's kind of really cool and awesome. All of our assignments are purposely flexible. I don't have a sample of this to show because if I gave the sample, all of you would just imitate that, and I don't want that. So when it says create a document, yes, you can use whatever you want. Some people use Microsoft Word. Some people use PowerPoint. Some people create a Prezi. Some people use, I don't know, anything. So document with visual elements means just that. Now, what does visual elements mean? Here in week 1, I just want you to start having fun with visuals. Okay, so you're not being graded on layout or placement or quality of images. I just want you to start having fun and incorporate visuals somehow. So maybe it's a screenshot from one of the TED Talks. Or maybe you find an image that somehow relates to what the talk is about, and you include it in your document. So let me show you 2 places you can go to for allowable images. Okay? Omar says the key is to find a TED Talk that bores you the most, and the one that can make you interested in it is the best presenter. Oh, okay, so pick a boring topic, and then if the presenter does a great job making that topic interesting, that probably means it's a great presentation. Yeah, I agree with that. By the way, the presentation doesn't have to be good either. Maybe you find one that doesn't move you, but you can still analyze it using these prompts. Okay, so yeah, you'll answer these questions. By the way, don't just copy the question over and give an answer. Copy the next question. No, your answers to these questions you'll put in like paragraph form. Or if you're going to use something like PowerPoint, you'd put them on slides. If you're going to use Microsoft Word, you'd write paragraphs. Okay, does this make sense? And then for visuals, there are two places I like to go. One is the Full Sail Library. Okay, so you go to Full Sail Connect. All of you, I hope, have been here long enough to know how to do that. Does anybody not know how to get to Full Sail Connect? Once you're on the main page, you can search for organizations, but it's much quicker just to pull it down from the menu here. And there's Library. Excuse me. Then you go to Research Databases. And then this guy here, the third one, AP Images Collection. AP stands for Associated Press. So these are going to be images that were mostly used in news stories. This is great when you need to find someone who's been in the news or some topic that's been in the news, which may or may not be great for your assignment. So if we put in, for example, Bill Gates, we'll probably get a lot of different stuff. Right? Yeah, so we have 10 million pictures of Bill Gates. But let's say you watch a TED Talk that has something to do with video games, and you just wanted an image that captured that. You could probably type Xbox and get some results. Again, this is the Associated Press, so it looks like a lot of things from conventions. Okay. AP Images is, yeah, it's better when you're looking for something that's been in the news. If you're looking for that right image that's just sort of, I don't want to say generic, but you need a picture of, let's say, students, because your presentation is about education. Or you need images of different devices like tablets, smartphones, because you're doing a presentation on technology. There's a place called compfight.com. I'm going to go ahead and type it in the chat as well. This is a Flickr search tool, and the great thing about this is that it has plenty of allowable images. So if I look for, let's say, kittens, then I get all these cute kitten pictures. Okay, anything above the dotted line, ignore, because it's just shilling for another site. They want you to pay. You should never have to pay for things. So below the dotted line is free. Excuse me. The only thing other thing you have to be careful of is here. Make sure that you have Creative Commons or even better, commercial selected. Okay, don't have any license because we need images that are allowable, right? So let me just click on an example. Oh, this guy's cute. Okay, this is what we're looking for. Some rights reserved. If we see all rights reserved, we can't use it. Or if we just Google for images, then we don't know where it comes from, right? So I said that I love Taylor Swift. So we Google Taylor Swift's name, and then we get all these images, right? And then we go, ooh, great. Let me take this one. Let me take that one. But we don't know the status of it, right? We don't know if this is allowable or not. But if we go to the AP Images database or compfight.com, yeah, we can search for images that are absolutely allowable. Okay, and then you can choose whatever download size you want. Literally, then it's just a matter of dragging it into your presentation. All right, so I could download this guy. And then if I had a blank slide open, it's as simple as going to my download, taking it, and dragging it into the thing. Actually, it could probably work in Keynote. Let me close that. Wrong thing. Can I get a new slide real quickly? New slide. Okay. Where's my image? Oops. Bear with me. We're almost done, by the way. You can tell because I'm wasting time. So there's my cat picture. Now, I should have grabbed the bigger picture. But there he is. Right? By the way, in PowerPoint, this is kind of what I do. Sometimes I just get a blank slide and I'll just replace the whole I shouldn't say stupid, the whole darn slide with whatever image I like. And then this is where image selection is important too. If there's space where I can conveniently put in wording and then choose the right font size or style to match, yeah, then we have something in business. Again, if we look at this example, right? Like, look how nice that looks. Okay, font selection. It's not fancy, but we chose the right color, right size. didn't just choose the first thing that popped up. Match it with the right visual, and boom, you've got a powerful visual that allows you to now speak over that with whatever you would say. Okay. Kylie says, good job presenting kittens. Yeah, I choose either kittens or puppies. Okay, back to the assignment. So, where's my... oh my gosh. I lost my... I feel so bad for the people who are going to have to watch this after the fact. Okay, there we go. So, we choose our 3 TED Talks. So, we're basically going through these prompts 3 separate times. Does that make sense? Once for each presentation. And then we're going to put our analyses in some sort of document. Some people choose PowerPoint because they want to play with presentation software already. Some just choose Microsoft Word. By the way, Microsoft Word also has a section. As much as I made it sound like templates are terrible for this assignment, maybe not. They have like things like pamphlet templates, brochure templates that are already set up, so you can drag images in if you wanted to. But yeah, it's purposely open-ended. Create a document where you analyze 3 TED Talks using these prompts and make sure there's some sort of visual element, okay? And if you can do that, step 3. And then once you're finished analyzing the 3 TED Talks, conclude with your sort of top 10 list, okay? Now that you've watched 3 presentations, what would you say are the 10 qualities, techniques, or skills that make presentations effective, okay? So an analysis of 3 talks, throw in some visuals, and conclude with a top 10 list about what you've learned about presentation making. Yeah, we'll open up things to questions. William's already asking one. He says, so are we making 3 separate documents for each talk or all 3 in one presentation? Great question. Yeah, one document. So let's say you use PowerPoint. That's pretty easy to do. You might say presentation number 1, presenter, person's name, right? Maybe briefly tell me what the presentation was about, and then get into your analysis. Just make sure that you cover these questions. Okay? It might take you 1 slide. It might take you 3 or 4 slides. Or if you're doing it in Microsoft Word, maybe these prompts require 2, 3, 4 paragraphs to answer. I don't know. Again, this is purposely open-ended. We have 25 students. I will literally receive probably 25 different looking documents. Okay? And that's good. For this class, that's good, because when it comes to presentation time, I'm also going to get 20 or so different presentations. And when we get close to that time, I do have some past student examples to share with you, so you can get a sense of what previous students have done. But as you'll see, yeah, nobody tackles it the same way. So if it seems like these assignments are flexible, it's purposely so. Okay, we don't want to teach just one way to do things. Tiernan, I'm going to unmute you because it looks like you have your hand up again. So you're free to speak, sir.
So does it have to be TED? Because I have a friend that just spoke at a conference, a music conference in Europe. I have another friend that spoke at the Winter Music Conference early this year.
Oh, okay. And you have that. Do you have access to it?
I have access to the like I can get like videos and like take little Snapchats and talk about what and yeah.
Well, here's the good news, or the bad and good news. The bad news is for this assignment, I do want you to stick with 3 TED Talks. The good news is next week we have a similar but different assignment where you get to choose a presentation of your own choosing to analyze. So that will work well for, I think, next week's activity. Okay, does that make sense? Yeah, you're welcome. So, any other questions? Either about this week's activities, there's a discussion board activity and this TED Talk assignment, or anything that we've covered so far tonight. If you don't have questions, I'm not going to force you to stay, though you might want to hang out and listen to what other people have to ask. Helen says, is this assignment due on Sunday? Yes. The discussion's already open, and Helen, I think you've already put an initial post on the board, but the discussion entirely responding to 2 of your classmates ends on Sunday. And yes, this TED Talk assignment is due on Sunday as well. William says, is there a way to download the books off of Safari? I don't think so, no. Yeah, Tiernan says no. He was the one who asked me about it because he would have liked it in another format that he could take with him and was, I think, easier on his eyes. Yeah, that's one frustrating thing, is that the textbooks are convenient in the sense that they're online, but Yeah, there's no downloadable formats. For those people who don't have questions, you're 100% crystal clear on everything. You are allowed to go and enjoy the rest of your evening. Thank you so much for attending. We'll do this the same time, same place next Tuesday, but I'm going to hang out for a little bit and continue to answer questions. Yeah, and as Helen mentions, you can always print pages. Although in the paperless world, I don't know how many people do that anymore. I remember 12 years ago or so, 15 years ago, everybody talked about the paperless environments, and I said, yeah, we'll see if that ever happens. I never touch paper. Never. Latasha says, when we conclude from my own perspective, do we put it in first person point of view? Do you mean for these 10 takeaways? Yeah, sure. Yeah, absolutely. You can write from your own point of view. And you can do it for any part of the analysis as well. This isn't like English class. And even in English class, I don't think that's sort of a mistaken belief that you can never use I. Um, True, lots of times it's unnecessary. Uh, but yeah, don't worry so much about that. Just make sure that you're analyzing 3 TED Talks carefully, including some sort of visual, and then ending it with a top 10 list, and you should be good. Yeah, it's that simple. If people can follow those instructions, it's difficult not to do well in this activity. Okay, any other questions, guys? I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording because it seems like things are slowing down. I don't want people who are watching this who couldn't attend to get bored and tune out. So for those people watching, I'm signing off now.